Guys, hasn't this week been so much fun? Like, isn't it fun? Aren't we having so much fun? Just roll the clip, man.
At last the roof goes on and nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
I asked about her response. She went in and she got on social and said white privilege after her getting
Who did this?
DiJonai did. Any response to that?
No, I don't know anything about that. But no response.
See, now watch that last clip again, except look at KK.
And said white privilege after her getting
Who did this?
DiJonai did. Any response to that?
Me too, sweet baby. Me too. See, that's Michaela Timpson finding out in real time that we have once again taken a basketball game and turned it into whatever this is. And it was a really important game for her. She was on that podium for a reason. She moved into the starting lineup. She gave Indiana 31 really good minutes, 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting. She blocked a couple of shots. It was a 4-point road win. It was awesome. And yet the next week of her life is gonna be this. It's like, you have this great game and I still can't re-download Twitter. Kelsey Mitchell scored 27 points and set a WNBA single-season record for most consecutive 20-point games. Caitlin had 26 points, 11 assists, and 5 threes, which is her 8th such game of her career, and the rest of WNBA history only has 4. Aaliyah had a double-double. Lexi's starting to look a lot better. Michaela was awesome. Indiana won its 20th game of the season and is moving up the standings when it really needs it. Does anybody want to talk about any of that? No? Sick! Because late in the first quarter, Sophie Cunningham got loose in transition, and she had this open layup, but DiJonai Carrington comes in like a bat out of hell and hits her with a lariat that the great Stan Hansen would have been proud of. So, Sophie hits the floor. Everybody gets into it. Officials go to the monitor. Very quick review. Flagrant 2, automatic ejection, and Carrington could not believe it.
Since there's wind-up, impact, and follow-through, high potential for injury.
What do you mean? You hit her with the clothesline from hell! So DiJonai keeps making her case as she's exiting the court, and I admire the commitment, I guess, but you just committed pass interference in a basketball game. So eventually she gets back to the locker room. Like any sane human being, she decides that the best thing that she can do is open up Threads and fire off a post. Come on. Baby girl, you tackled her out of midair. We have video, we have angles. This isn't the Zapruder film. You committed an ejection level infraction and you got ejected. There's no mystery. And I'm so tired, man. I'm so tired of all of this. I saw the post and I watched everybody immediately run to their assigned corners and why can we not just talk about basketball? The funny thing is, a couple of days before this, Sophie Cunningham said almost the exact same thing.
The Minnesota game, there's just so much distraction. I think the WNBA media, all we ever do is cover everything except basketball.
Now, that's correct. I completely agree with that. To me, there's only one issue with the fact that Sophie Cunningham said that, and it's the fact that it was Sophie Cunningham who was saying that, right? Because ultimately, she was the reason WNBA discourse had nothing to do with basketball. So, just in case you've been living under a rock, Sophie Cunningham speaks publicly about trans participation in women's sports, and everybody reacted. It's positive, it's negative. She's a hero, she's a bigot. There's protest, there's counter-protest. She doubled down. She's like, I said what I said. And then they go on this road trip. She gets booed bad every time that she touches a ball by a mostly liberal audience that the WNBA happens to be. And man, she says, I love the boos. She says, that's basketball, baby. But then obviously something changed. Obviously something got to her. She has not been playing well since first game or so after this entire situation took place. And then she says, can we please just get back to basketball? I agree. Let's just get back to basketball. But Sophie, baby, you chose this. You doubled down and then you tripled down. You could have let it die and you kept going. And Sophie absolutely has her right to exercise her freedom of speech. Everybody has their right to exercise their freedom of speech. To me, it's just absolutely insane that she somehow gets tired of it and then decides to try to turn it off like a faucet. And I love Sophie Cunningham, the player. She's an extremely valuable asset on the court to this Indiana Fever team. But man, it gets so frustrating because the point that she was trying to make that unfortunately was discredited by basically herself is right. The WNBA discourse is addicted to drama in a way that I've never seen in professional sports. And it's honestly like, like if you're at like a workplace and you have one of those signs that says 0 days since the last injury or whatever, I constantly feel like it's been 0 days since the WNBA discourse became the WNBA. It's like the brand is morphing into its own drama. And I'm so tired of it. I mean, if you don't believe me, there's Fever examples. There's not Fever examples, but I've only got so much time here, so let's do an old-fashioned montage. Caitlin Clark picks up her 8th technical foul after making contact accidentally with an official while going out of bounds. 8 technicals means an automatic suspension. Unfortunately, it was one of the worst technicals I've ever seen in the history of basketball, and merely an hour after the game, the WNBA rescinds it. So not only are the refs incompetent, but the WNBA has to step in and tell the refs that they're incompetent. And it doesn't stop there. Alyssa Thomas makes contact with Caitlin's throat during a loose ball play. There is no call for this particular throat punch, but then the next day, the league reviews it, assesses a flagrant 2, and suspends Thomas for a game, reportedly at the urging of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. The WNBA's official social media account posted a video of Paige Beckers and Angel Reese joking about a $400 bet that they had on a game they were about to play. The WNBA posted a video of players betting on their own games. The WNBA posted a video of players betting on their own games. The WNBA posted a video of players betting on their own games. And when you know it, the next day they deleted it. They say that the post missed the mark, they addressed it internally, and the players get no punishment whatsoever. Good. I'm glad that the actual worst thing that's happening in sports right now is being treated with this level of sarcasm. 2 teenage fans go to a Seattle Storm game with signs supporting Sophie Cunningham. The Seattle Storm owner confronts them. The Storm apologizes. The WNBA finds the co-owner and bars her from the next 5 home games because now the ownership has entered the comment section. Toronto coach Sandy Brondello gets caught on the broadcast complaining about Angel Reese to the officials and calls her a protected species. Now, Brondello is Australian. She later explains that the phrase is used in Australian sports to mean a player is getting favorable treatment from the officials. Unfortunately, we are not coaching Australian sports. This is Angel Reese, a black woman in the WNBA in America. So, yeah, just call a black woman a protected species and see what happens. Brondello apologizes, the league suspends her for a game. Everybody argues about the phrase, its intent, its context, the punishment, and the apology. And it's been 0 days since the last incident. Last season, reports spread that racist fan behavior had been directed toward Angel Reese during a Fever Sky game in Indianapolis. The league opens an investigation based on basically one tweet. They talk to relevant fans, team, and arena staff. They review audio, they review video, and they ultimately say they can't substantiate the report. Probably because there was nothing to substantiate. The person was almost certainly just mimicking flight reacts. But by then, the allegation, the investigation, and everybody's opinion about both of them have already become national news. People even had to apologize for speaking on it too soon. And then, DiJonai. A couple of weeks ago, DiJonai Carrington took to threads and publicly accused her ex, Nalissa Smith, of cheating on her with multiple WNBA players. She named names. Now, those are just allegations. I have no idea what happened in their relationship, but I do have one question. Why do I know any of this? Why is this something that you feel the need to put out onto the public? Why is this something you just take to social media? And why does DiJonai Carrington keep doing this? Can somebody put a parental lock on her phone or confiscate it or something? And And these stories vary wildly, from the serious to the silly. The seriousness of the matter is not always a common denominator, but what is a common denominator is the volume. I mean, there's always something happening. Like, there's always something happening, and then something happens to the something, and then the call gets changed, right? And then once the call gets changed, the statement comes out, and then the statement creates another statement because everybody's complaining about the first statement, and then somebody posts something, and then somebody deletes something, and then somebody responds, somebody apologizes, somebody gets suspended, somebody wants an investigation. Then the investigation itself becomes controversial because people didn't want the investigation in the first place, even though there needed to be an investigation. And why can't we just play basketball? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, guys. Got out over my skis a bit on that one, but I'm back, I'm centered, and I'm ready to have this discussion. Because it's not just, why can't we just talk about basketball? It's, why can't we just talk about basketball? See, there's a very easy version of this argument that falls apart very quickly, and I'm just as frustrated as anybody, but the WNBA has never been a league where basketball and the larger culture lived in separate rooms. That history matters here. The league is predominantly black, it's all women, and it's been one of the most visible spaces for openly queer athletes that we've ever seen. In 2014, the WNBA became the first professional sports league to establish a dedicated league-wide pride campaign. In 2020, the league and the Players Association jointly created the Social Justice Council. Atlanta Dream players wore Vote Warnock shirts while one of their team owners, Kelly Loeffler, was running against Raphael Warnock for United States Senate. That's unusual professional sports history, but it's part of this league's identity. That voice, that social intersection, it's all part of the WNBA, and the personalities are part of it too. The fact that these players have historically been willing to say things and speak out on things that other professional athletes have a tendency to shy away from is very, very important, and it's foundational to the reason why this league grew the way that it did, was built the way that it did, and the old fan culture grew up based around that. You see, let's address the elephant in the room. The WNBA used to be located in a much smaller neighborhood. The hardcore fans, of which there were not very many, they knew everybody. They knew all of the tea, all of the friendships and the relationships and the grudges and the history, and that tea was practically a secondary statistical category because, frankly, we discount humanity in sports far too often. And the media relationship between the players, between everybody, it was different too, because a lot of the people who were covering this sport were fighting an uphill battle to convince people that women's sports were worthy of being covered at all. And that does something to an ecosystem. If I say that Rick Carlisle's rotation is terrible, or if I say that Eric Spoelstra has lost it, or if I say, why in the world does Doc Rivers keep getting a job? All of that is normal. Nobody thinks I'm attacking anybody, but for a league that spent most of its first 3 decades defending its own relevance, criticism felt a lot more existential because everybody was pulling on the same rope. Everybody was fighting the same fight. Negativity wasn't really something that was around the WNBA because if you asked somebody who covers the WNBA, if you asked somebody who was a fan of the WNBA, if you asked a player, certainly if you asked any of the ownership, they wanted to be positive about the league. They wanted to feel awesome about the league because ultimately, for the first 25 years of this league's existence, they never turned a single penny of profit. They were all rowing in the same direction, and so criticism was not a big part of what took place inside of this league. But then the WNBA got exactly what it spent nearly 30 years asking for. People showed up. there was an episode of the Athletics Women's Basketball podcast from May, and the title of it was perfect for this conversation. It was, "Is the WNBA ready to be criticized like every other major league?" Their argument was essentially that the WNBA is at a tipping point right now where it's going to have to grow up as a league. People are going to have to be more accepting of criticism because now they are a large league. Now the WNBA can stand on its own 2 feet. Now you don't have to just speak about the WNBA in a positive way in order for it to exist. The WNBA's coverage used to be very cautious, but now it's deeper analysis and it's tougher criticism, and the league is getting mainstream attention. But that growth changes everybody's relationship on the inside of it. A reporter doesn't have to prove that they love women's basketball before they ask a hard question about women's basketball. A bad coaching decision now gets criticized. A front office screws something up, and people are writing about it, and the people who write about it have their stuff read. And that's what happens when people care. And we saw one version of this during the 2024 playoffs with Christine Brennan and DiJonai Carrington. I promise, I'm not just trying to talk about DiJonai Carrington here, but she just keeps doing stuff. Carrington caught Caitlyn in the eye during a game, and the internet was already doing what it does, insisting that it had to be intentional, which I'm not positive it was. I'm not positive it wasn't, even a couple years later. Christine Brennan asked Carrington directly if she intended to hit Caitlyn in the eye, and the follow-up question brought up a clip that had surfaced online that appeared to show that DiJonai Carrington was laughing about it afterwards. Now, to be fair to DiJonai Carrington, she said, "Oh no, I didn't mean to hit her. I didn't even realize that I hit her," which it was a perfectly fine response. But then the Players Association released a blistering statement calling Brennan unprofessional and indecent and saying she didn't deserve her credentials. Now, Christine Brennan's follow-up question may not have been phrased very well because DiJonai was already getting this disgusting, racist, homophobic, all of this abuse that unfortunately has become all too common. And Christine should have phrased what she said differently because she has to be a little bit more aware of the world the words that she's about to say is entering. But banning a credentialed reporter because you hated their question, that's an entirely different thing. Major sports coverage can't function like public relations. Somebody is going to ask why the fourth quarter offense stinks. Sometimes a question is going to annoy you. Sometimes the premise is going to be wrong and the answer is going to simply be, no, that's ridiculous. But all of this together is just journalism. This reminds me of people begging Kathy Engelbert to do something about all of the racist abuse, the homophobic abuse, and all of the threats and everything that they're receiving online, which I'm no Kathy Engelbert fan, but to a certain extent, what is Kathy supposed to do? You have to accept the worst of humanity as part of humanity, and you have to understand that if you want a public platform, that is going to come with some form of hate. That's why I'm losing so much weight, is because eventually people won't call me fat anymore. But I did kind of stumble onto a little bit of the problem just now while I was defending Kathy Engelbert. Frankly, this league has absolutely terrible leadership. At All-Star Weekend, Kathy Engelbert was asked about the league and its future, and she was very boastfully talking about how much the league has grown. And she wasn't wrong. She said when she started at the league had 12 full-time employees just working in the league office, and now they have almost 100. Now, that's crazy growth, but keep in mind, they're still at only 100. A lot of the estimates have nearly 10,000 employees at both the NBA and NFL, and they are big sports leagues. Now, the WNBA is a big sports league, but in many ways, you have to think about the WNBA's nucleus as a still growing small business. They're trying to figure out how to maximize their profits, how to make sure that they don't go back into the red, and most importantly, they're trying to figure out how to take the next steps and expand without bankrupting themselves. But The growth is dizzying, and it's hard to adjust to. The WNBA now has 15 teams playing 330 combined regular season games. There are 216 nationally distributed games this season. Every Fever game is a national game. There are new media partners, expansion teams, bigger audiences, more money, more scrutiny, more social traffic, more disciplinary issues, more everything. And the machinery that is running the league is trying to scale to all of this in real time. And that does explain some of these growing pains. But ultimately, the growing pains have to actually grow into something that's not painful. There's a criticism that's levied toward the WNBA over and over again. I do it just as much as anybody. And that is the fact that the league does nothing, right? The league does nothing about all of this. They just let everybody run rampant and blah, 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 blah. And technically speaking, that's ridiculous. Hang with me here. The league does things constantly. Actually, that's its biggest problem. They investigate, they fine, they suspend, they rescind, they review, they issue statements. What I cannot find is the consistent pattern that makes me believe that the response is actually going to get anything under control. There's no consistency across the board. Rather than trying to make sure that you have better refs, you institute a replay center. So a huge call gets missed during the game, we'll fix it tomorrow. A technical gets assessed, well, we'll erase it after the game, even though it resulted in 2 direct points in a game that ended up being decided by 4. One situation produces an investigation immediately, another produces a fine, another gets a suspension, but another one sits there until everybody already decided what happened. I mean, the idea that they posted a video of 2 players betting on a game and nothing ended up happening, and yet when somebody reportedly makes a racist noise at Angel Reese, a whole investigation gets launched, even though there wasn't merit to that claim in the first place. Can we please have some consistency? And of course, different situations call for different punishments. That's not what I'm saying. But fans should eventually be able to look at the framework of a league and understand roughly how it governs itself. With the WNBA, the response that they make is very rarely a resolution to any form of issue. It's actually just a sequel to the original controversy. It's like I said before, there's a bad call, right? And there's outrage, and then there's a league ruling, but then there's outrage about the ruling, and then there's a statement, then there's a statement about the other statement, and we end up in a situation where the fire extinguisher is on fire. That's what I mean when I say that the league does nothing. Functionally, they do stuff all the time, but these half measures aren't producing confidence, and the inconsistency isn't producing credibility, and the actions aren't producing control. Consumer confidence is the most important metric that you can have, and people may believe in certain players, they may even believe in certain teams, but nobody believes in the WNBA at this point. And once people start expecting incompetence, then every new mistake gets interpreted as confirmation. Even if the macro level is trending upward, the micro level is going to be crucified in the court of public opinion because people expect you to make mistakes. So every time you do, they're going to interpret it as a completely new justification for not believing in you. There have already been serious questions around the league about whether Kathy Engelbert is the right person to lead us into this next stage. But I don't know whether changing the commissioner is more than just a good start. It definitely needs to happen, but I don't know, maybe the answer is more structural. Maybe the league office simply needs to keep growing. Maybe communication and officiating infrastructure catch up. Maybe just we need different people in, a lot of positions. And recently, a report stated that the WNBA reportedly doesn't believe that they have the right person in-house to become the new commissioner in order to promote within. So, I don't think the board has a ton of confidence in all of the people who come in and clock in every day, and rightfully so. The current pattern cannot be afforded to be the permanent. pattern, because the phrase I keep seeing from people who are actually in the know, people who actually care, people who are actually fans of the league is really alarming. I've been seeing the word spiraling a lot lately, and I agree. This whole situation is spiraling. Our business lesson today is ultimately about growth, but that growth is what makes this spiral worth talking about. A record 216 nationally distributed games. Every single Fever game is on some form of national platform. There are 15 teams now, and we have more expansion teams coming at an exponential rate. More than that, people are finally paying attention. Your audience is bigger than it's ever been. You have everything that you want. ESPN is talking about you. Fox Sports is talking about you. All of these platforms are talking about you, but attention isn't permanent. Getting people through the door and making them want to stay are two different things. It's hard to get to the top, but it's 10 times harder to stay there. And the WNBA isn't even at the top yet, and they're acting like they don't need to stay there. Every single one of these avoidable controversies, all of the league blunders that they have to slap some flex seal over and act like they never had a problem in the first place, all of these issues with the players, every ill-advised tweet, every social media blunder, all of it has a reaction. There's somebody out there who's going to roll their eyes, but there's also somebody out there who's going to switch the channel. I have seen so many people lately say, I can't do this with this league anymore. And here's the thing. Once those people decide to stop watching your program, usually you're not going to get them back. It's really easy, actually, in terms of marketing, to give people a shot. Getting people to tune in for the first time is widely regarded as one of the easier parts of marketing. It's once people turn off the television, it's once people decide, you know what, I'm going to watch baseball instead. It's once people say, you know, Monday Night Raw is on, I'm going to give that a chance, or man, the reruns of Friends are starting to look interesting. That is when you lose people permanently, and the league is bordering on that. Reputation is something that's real, and it accumulates. And for my wrestling friends, you guys know what I mean. Let's talk about TNA for a second. During the early 2000s, a small challenger brand emerged as opposed to WWE. It was called Total Nonstop Action, or TNA for short. And if you look at the roster from around that time, you are going to see a who's who of professional wrestling, and a lot of the people you've probably been enjoying on WWE television for years. I mean, it had AJ Styles, it had both of the Motor City Machine Guns, Samoa Joe, it had Christopher Daniels, it had so many amazing young talents, and it was mixed in with some former stars like Jeff Hardy, some former stars like Kevin Nash, and there were a lot of things that were happening there that were really, really innovative. And so everybody evangelized TNA who knew about TNA. They were saying AJ Styles and Abyss and all of these different wrestlers, but also Sting and Jeff Hardy and Sabu and Rhino and these people that you know, they are doing amazing work down in Orlando, and you, yes, you viewer, need to give it a shot. But the thing about that is, eventually everybody showed up, and when everybody showed up, unfortunately, it was taken over by the wrong people. TNA made misstep after misstep. They turned it into WWE Light. They got rid of the six-sided ring that made them so distinctive. Hulk Hogan had a ton of creative pull, just brought in all of his friends, just made everybody just this retirement home, essentially. All of the things that made TNA special went away, and TNA developed a reputation of LOL TNA. TNA often had great matches, great wrestlers, and good ideas, but the audience got trained to wait for TNA to slip up so that they could say, all right, LOL TNA, of course TNA is going to do this. And that is the danger here. I look at the WNBA now, and I see a lot of the same problems that TNA was falling into. You see, people are making fun of the WNBA now, and unfortunately, that is absolutely nothing new. However, The joke has changed. People are saying, oh, WNBA is gonna WNBA. I keep seeing people say, oh my God, this league, bro. Every time that DiJonai Carrington airs out her personal laundry on Threads, every time she claims white privilege in a situation where she may have just happened to RKO somebody, every time Caitlyn gets called for a stupid tech, every time she gets tackled and no foul gets called, every time that there is some sort of an issue in the WNBA, everybody says, this is such an unserious league. And listen, this is a really bad thing to say, but the joke used to be a lot simpler. People made fun of the WNBA because it was women playing basketball, and the idea to them that women were playing basketball, that was funny. That was an easy one to answer. I sort of used to be part of that crowd when I was young and dumb. But then you actually start watching the basketball and you realize these women can play. You're wrong. The newer joke is about the dysfunction of the organization itself. You can show somebody a great product, but it gets harder when everything surrounding the product keeps reinforcing this caricature that you already have of a dysfunctional league. And it doesn't help that our society has this idea surrounding it that women are nothing but drama. And then you go to the WNBA, which is filled with some of the best basketball players in the entire world, filled with some of the best athletes that you're going to see, and no one stupid post by a player ruins a sports league. No individual bit of criticism. No officiating mess, no suspension, no investigation. None of that in an isolated scenario is going to ruin a professional sports league. But it's death by 1,000 cuts. You put one thing in the trash can and then another and then another. Nobody notices that first piece of trash, but they're going to notice when the can gets full, and then they're going to wheel it out to the road to get picked up. Ultimately, this is so much bigger than just the commissioner. And the league office, they could clean up their entire process tomorrow and still not solve all of it. Because the players have responsibility here, the coaches, the owners, the media, even the fans. Why are you posting on social media during the game? Why are we litigating somebody's relationship with their ex in front of the entire league? There are issues that are bigger than basketball. Player threats, those are bigger than basketball. Racism is bigger than basketball. Queer issues are bigger than basketball. Harassment and player safety, much, much bigger than basketball. But every time something small happens, suddenly we start borrowing language from whatever the worst version of that problem is. Then every little problem is DEFCON 1. And people wonder why Caitlin Clark is so careful about the things that she says. People wonder why Stephanie White sounds like somebody's lawyer half the time. Have you seen what happens when anybody says anything around this house? Stephanie White's job on the podium is half defending her players, but it's also half trying to put out fires. It's also half trying to quell issues that are happening in the media. Every time she speaks, she has to choose the sentence least likely to create 3 days more of headlines, or at the very least not make those 3 days of headlines worse. And I feel worse for her every time that she has to do that. I don't think she's a perfect coach. I think that there are times when she can speak up for the players a little bit more forcefully, but man, she's just trying to do basketball, man. Last episode was entirely about people trying to ascribe their belief to Caitlin Clark. Last episode was about people trying to speak their truth through what they think Caitlin Clark meant by the things that she didn't say. Oh, and by the way, right after that episode came out, she did a little bit of an interview on All-Star Weekend and said, hey, you don't know me, stop putting words in my mouth. I'll take a little bit of victory lap on that one. But we talked about one of her quotes also, and one of her quotes basically said, discuss my play, discuss if I played badly, discuss if I played well, because that's sports. But somehow around this league, just talking about the sports feels revolutionary. There's another part of that Caitlyn media statement that really got to me, and it's something I used in the last episode, but I'm going to use it again here. It was after the Alyssa Thomas situation. She said she thought the play should have been a flagrant foul. She said the officiating needed to get better. She said the league needed to do a better job protecting players, and she condemned the harassment and hate that Thomas and others received afterward. But then she moved on to the part that everybody keeps missing.
I remember, I think it was Sunday or Saturday, whatever day that was. I remember like watching them discuss it on TV, and I didn't know they were going to discuss it. I was just watching the other games because I try to watch as much as I can, and I honestly felt bad for the players that were playing in the games those days, and also I felt bad for my teammates. They played on Friday, and they dominated, and they played really well, and nobody wanted to talk about that. They were just worried about everything else. So, and there had been, I think 10 plus other games that had already happened to that point. So
she's talking about the fact that there are so many great players playing at such a high level, and she doesn't like the fact that these games get swallowed by the same story over and over again, usually a story that has absolutely nothing to do with even the two teams that are on the court. Think about how absurd that is. Caitlin Clark is at home watching WNBA basketball. Other women who are not Caitlin Clark are playing WNBA basketball, and the conversation that Caitlin is watching on her screen from home in a game that does not involve the Fever is just about Caitlin Clark from 4 days ago. That's our whole episode here today. That she addressed the foul, the officiating, the harassment, and then she asked everybody involved to refocus the narrative because there is another basketball game that is happening. And for some reason, that's the hardest part here. I know it's hard to believe, but there is a point where I do run out of sarcasm reserves in my gas tank. And now is kind of the point in the episode where that's happening, because I love this league, man. I really do. I love basketball, like, obviously, like, look around, but there are things about WNBA basketball that I genuinely enjoy in a completely different way than any other form of basketball. The geometry is just different. The game is much more less frequently solved by simply somebody being bigger, faster, and 40 inches above everybody. I'm looking at you, Wemby. You get possessions that have to actually like be worked through, like angles and footwork and timing and screens and cuts. And, Kelsey Mitchell gets the ball and she penetrates and then jumps back, and then it's a crossover and it's to the right and then it's to the left, and then suddenly in about 3 seconds she's got all the space that she needs to drain the prettiest jump shot maybe that I've ever seen, male or female. You watch a guard just move a defender by just like moving her eyes. You watch a post player fight in a way that you're not allowed to in the NBA just to get a seal. You watch the weak side react to things. A team will run the same action 3 times just to run a counter on the 4th. If you want somebody to actually learn how basketball works, if you want them to learn the fundamentals, I think the WNBA is one of the best places you can send them. Go back to the game that made me originally make this episode, right? Kelsey did something nobody else has ever done in a single season. Caitlin officially lapped the league, doing a stat line 2 times more than the entire rest of the league has ever done. Aaliyah has 13 and 11 and looks like a woman amongst girls out there on the court most of the time. Michaela Timpson, man, she stepped into the starting lineup. She gave Indiana 31 really, really good minutes. I mean, she can dunk. There's basketball there, like basketball, like the sport of basketball. Like you tip the ball up at the beginning of the game and then basketball happens. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about Stephanie White's rotations. I want to complain about them. I want everything to just be on the merits of what happens on the court. I want to complain that Aaliyah's not getting enough touches one night and then probably complain about something completely contradictory 2 games later because I'm a sports fan and that's my constitutional right. I just want to talk ball. That's all I want to do. I want to enjoy being a basketball fan. even outside of the fact that I'm doing this podcast. Like, I want to just be a fan. And every year, I have to have this gut check moment where I think about whether or not it's worth it to be invested in this league anymore. Every single year, it's just like you're signing up for every culture war in America. You're signing up for somebody's relationship drama. There's an officiating seminar and apparently occasionally a congressional subcommittee, because can we talk about that again for a second? Every year I reach a point where I find myself saying this isn't fun anymore. And every year I have to will myself to keep watching, because sometimes I really hate this league. But I really love this league, man. And at the end of the day, all I want to do is watch the Fever. I just want to talk about them. And for years, man, everybody was begging people, including me, who weren't in on the joke, right? People have been begging people to pay attention to women's basketball. And now people are paying attention. This is what we're giving them to pay attention to. We're turning it into a joke. This is even the players are making a mockery of the whole thing. Keep the personality, keep the voice, let the reporters ask their hard questions, and let the players answer however they see fit. Just, can we build a league that's mature enough to absorb all of that without setting itself on fire every 3 days from the ground up? Can we not be so worried about every little thing? Because there has to be some restraint. There has to be some sort of institutional competence. Everybody involved has to understand that being heard also means living with the reaction to what you choose to say. I've already had my gut check moment for the year. It happened actually shortly before I started writing the script. It happened during the game that led me to pause my almost completed episode in order to write this one, because I feel like it's that important. There's so much good basketball happening here, man. I know. I watch it. I talk about it. I love it. And that's why it's really important that all of us keep talking about it. The answer of whether or not it's worth it to support this league is always going to be yes, because representation is important at all levels. And it's important that everybody understands that there's something really special here underneath all of the BS, because if the people like us turn away, then the league's going to die. Because it's starting to spiral out of control. And the only way that you can stop a spiral, the only way that you can stop a whirlpool is if something starts moving in the other direction. We have to start moving in the other direction. I am begging you guys, can we please just talk about basketball? And that goes to all of the fans watching this. But if by some miracle somebody from the WNBA watches this, or somebody from the Fever organization watches this, or whatever, if one of the players is watching this, first of all, I love you. Thank you. But like, it's up to us to not let this be something that causes the league not to grow. Every single one of us. And I don't know, man. In a tradition, or at least something that is becoming a tradition on this show, I've got to let Caitlin Clark have the final word on this one, because she said it about as well as I ever could.
It's all of our jobs to help refocus the narratives a lot of the times, and we can do better at that. And I think it'll help our game grow a lot more. and that goes for obviously the fever and whatever, but at the same time, you know, you guys are here in this arena every time we play, and the amount of people that are passionate and love the game and respect the other team, and the young girls and the young boys that show up, like, we can't lose sight of that. And that's whether we're here at home and whether that's we're on the road. And, you know, there's a lot of really, really great people that, you know, love this league and love our organization. And, you know, I'm thankful to be here in an organization that has my back and will always stand up for me. And, you know, I think we can't ever lose sight of that.